Welcome to the Wellness for Women show, where we talk about life, weight loss and everything in between. I'm Faye Casement, founder of the AAA Way Life and Weight Loss Programme, and I'm here to help you put together the pieces of life and weight loss for one last time. This is an episode of the Wellness for Women show, filmed live in the free Facebook group. Hello everybody, and welcome to a bonus episode of the Wellness for Women show. And today I have the lovely Luna joining me, and we are going to talk about past life regression and well-being, which is going to be absolutely fascinating. So over to you very quickly, Luna. Do you want to introduce yourself for the people who are watching us live?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me, Faye. So I am Luna. I am one half of Blackmoon Cove, which is a business based on spiritual healing, where we deliver lots of kinds of spiritual healing. We teach spiritual-based and witchcraft courses, and we also have a witchy-based shop. We run lots of different programs and workshops, all usually based on very spiritual and witchcraft-based subjects.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. So, and for those who don't know me as well, I'm Faye Casement. I am a life and weight loss coach, and I am all about helping people to find food freedom. And I do that with my AAA Way method, which is awareness, action, and accountability, and my own little special way of how we can find weight loss with love. And so I guess people might be wondering, well, why, if you're a weight lossy based podcast, and when I say weight loss, I mean anything, but for me, weight loss, it's kind of like a weight loss, because it might be that you're working on weight loss, it might be that you're working on well-being, you don't actually have to weigh, but it's the awareness part that's key for me. You know, it's about finding your own individual path in life and weight loss, if that's what you want to do. And so therefore for me, this is all about how do we all tick as humans, and how do we all work on our well-being. Obviously you've got a very spiritual side and a spiritual based business, and so that's one way of gathering awareness and building your own path and individuality at the end of the day. So that's why I am happy to welcome on anybody who is doing anything in life. And I'm even going to be perhaps bringing on like business coach people, that kind of thing, because again, it's all awareness. You know, we'll have business owners in the space, and so again, it's all about how you gather awareness and fit those pieces together, really. So so tell me a little bit more. So I was just saying to Luna before we joined on, I've heard of past life regression, and I have, because of the belief coding that I'm doing, that there is sometimes past life can come up in there. But other than that, I know nothing about it, and so I'm fascinated to learn all about it. So do you want to give me a little tasty overview, and then like I say, I'll probably be full of questions.
Oh, I love the idea of a tasty overview.
Yeah,
I shall do my best. No, I think what you were saying before is so important though, Faye, because everything is so relational, and this is what we talk about a lot in Blackmoon Cove, about, you know, your physical health, your spiritual health, your emotional health. They all work together in a very interconnected way, and when we neglect one, it has a knock-on effect, right? So if we can address all parts of ourselves, we then are striving towards having a more positive, well-rounded well-being. So it is an important aspect of well-being, and it's all connected, to explore this idea of our spiritual health and our spiritual side. So past life regression therapy, I suppose before we delve into the therapy and the regression side, the concept of reincarnation is something to just touch upon, I suppose, without going too in-depth and theological on a Wednesday evening.
Luna and I had a brief chat before once, and she said that this was one of my familiars. And I thought that they might make an appearance for a change. So they're not usually allowed in, but anyway, sorry Luna, carry on. That was a cat for anybody listening.
That's okay. Familiars are always welcome. So yes, the concept of reincarnation is this idea that is thousands of years old and comes from so many different cultures and backgrounds. The idea that we are a soul that inhabits a body, We are not a body. And it's all very relational to your kind of work, Faye. We are more than just the body we inhabit. Our self-worth should be based on more than just the physical representation of what we have been given. Our bodies function differently depending on our individual circumstances, but they function. They do us a service. But we are more than just that part of us. We are a soul that is inhabiting that physical self. And that soul is on a journey. It's on a journey of learning where we soak up wisdom and we come across lessons and challenges that add to and enhance our growth, our understanding about ourselves and the world around us. And that journey can take thousands of years. It can take many lifetimes for our soul to get to a point where we feel like we have been able to absorb everything we need to absorb from the human experience. So without going too in depth, because there's a lot of different theological kind of strands of that, but in a lovely little tight nutshell, that's kind of the concept of reincarnation. So past life regression therapy is a way for us to delve into that soul journey, to trace back the lifetimes you've had before your soul inhabited the physical body it is in right now. We explore some of the past experiences that you have had that will be impacting on some of the decisions you make, some of the issues you might be encountering in this life, the people that you encounter in this life, all could be connected to those past experiences and other lives that you've had. So regression therapy is therapy, but it's a spiritual based therapy where we explore some of the old lives that you've had and address some of the healing and explore some of the issues that you may have faced in those other lives, and how you can take those lessons forward and help support you and guide you in this life.
Okay, yeah, so and that is interesting, because in the belief coding that I'm learning how to do, again, past lives, as I say, can come up, and obviously depending on whether you're spiritual or not, you can either work with that as obviously in a spiritual way, or you can work with it in a different way. But it is also so one of the things that we're taught within belief coding is about generational trauma, and how, and it's probably quite apt because I've got somebody who's witchy on, that we can carry through that trauma, even from, like, as women, even through from the witch trials, or, you know, we've then got stories and inherited conversation that's come down throughout the generations, through the different you know, like, even just if you think, like, our parents were perhaps wartime babies, and so therefore they would have had a different kind of upbringing. And so again, this sort of generational flow of information through people's lifetimes as well. And so I imagine that comes into past life as well, and sort of it's not necessarily also about your lived life, but the generational lives through your family.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Ancestral healing is something that's slightly separate, but it is so connected and so relevant to each other. We've literally just hosted a Healing the Witch Wound event last month, where we spent 5 days working on collective healing for the collective trauma that we had from those times of witch hunts. And it wasn't just about past lives and people who may have experienced that time, but also just the energy that we've brought forward from then, and, you know, all of the things that have been twisted and tainted, the imagery of witchcraft, you know, the image of the pentacle, which is our sacred religious symbol that has been depicted via the media and lots of different places and spaces of kind of demonized, if you like, this idea of witchcraft and our sacred symbol, and how that all stems from that time on earth and all over the world. And there is some countries still out there who punish witchcraft via death sentences, and it's still happening today. So it is a very relevant thing to look at via ancestral trauma, and being able to understand what has shaped us to be who we are today, and what has influenced us, not just from our own past life experiences, but through ancestral, and also through the wider world around us, and how that influences us, and how we feel about different situations, different people. So yeah, it is all very, very connected, hence why it's called regression therapy. We may use past lives as a tool to regress and to remember past lives. However, the therapy part of that and the discussion part of that will crop up lots of different things that's relational, including ancestral wounds.
Yeah, and again, it's this awareness, isn't it? It's this awareness of self, for me, is where everything starts. And I really didn't have any concept of that until I hit my 40s and I started my weight loss journey, and I was introduced to life coaching, and again, it's one of those things where it's all sort of touted, sort of things are touted about self-development or your well-being. I really didn't know anything about it, and so that's why, again, I'm loving the fact that you're coming on and telling us about this, because I'm gathering even more awareness and how all of this can kind of fit together. Or conversely, sometimes people hear something and then they decide that that's not for them, because again, discounting and counting, in or out, it doesn't matter as long as you are exploring, isn't it? That's the key for me.
Yeah, always be inquisitive, always be open-minded, and like you say, and if it doesn't vibe with you, or something doesn't feel like it fits, or you can let things go, you can keep the things that resonate. It's just about learning, and that's part of our whole point of being, isn't it? About collecting lessons and finding things that fit or don't fit, and just understanding yourself on a deeper level. All of that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is through that awareness of self that, again, we can then step into our actions and make changes if we want to, again, whether that be in food or our stories with food. And again, I'm sure, I don't know whether have you ever had any examples where, when you've been doing past life, has anybody looked to explore like their relationship with food throughout? Because again, we can explore that on a cognitive level throughout our own lifetime, but also just, again, the stories that we're told as, like, say, ancestrally more perhaps is what I'm used to, but I don't know how and if that's ever come up in past lives for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I have had people who've come towards me and said, can I explore this relationship I have with food? Because it just feels like it's on some sort of like repeated cycle. There's got to be something there that isn't fitting with me, that I don't understand. And an example of a regression where that would be relevant was somebody who you would expect, I think, for somebody to experience life where they didn't have a lot of food. So then now they kind of overeat maybe, or kind of indulge themselves from this past trauma of not having any. But actually, this particular example was interesting because it was somebody who actually worked in a slaughterhouse. I guess it was very ancient, so probably not the slaughterhouses we kind of associate with now, but had a very disjointed relationship with food because they just ate what they could, and it was generally like the not very nice parts of what was left of animals. And so they had this really like strange relationship with food where they would maybe overindulge in one sort of food group and then really struggle with other food groups, and couldn't really understand why. And when we uncovered that, it just really was like light bulb moments of like why certain foods kind of made them feel quite sick, or they really struggled with it. And we were able to do some healing work which helped them then start getting over some of the food fears that they had.
Yeah, and that's
and what was it actually?
Sorry, carry on.
No, that's all right. Because I was just about to say, actually, it was reinforced. Some of these food fears were actually reinforced by some of the diet clubs, and sort of fad diet things that they'd been a part of in this life. So actually, it was doing them very much a disservice by joining some of these groups and clubs, because some of the ideas around food, the fact that some foods should be avoided, was reinforced by them.
Yes, yeah, and that's for anybody who's even listened to me for a little while. You know, the diets and the diet clubs are my arch nemesis. You know, especially the ones that limit bread and cheese. That's annoying for me. Um, and again, it never fitted, it never gelled. So I always felt out of alignment when I was ever trying to go into those spaces, because it wasn't what I wanted to do, and it wasn't in alignment with where I wanted to be. And that's why your own unique path is the only true way for me to actually find, you know, and that comes from food freedom. But it's very on topic actually, because this week we were talking in my inner circle membership with regards to, so we were just starting out. I've just put a new resource in my membership about food freedom and identifying your current relationship with food. And we only got to the first question. We were really deep diving into it, just the things that we knew from our own past. You know, so for example, there was you know, people who were practically force-fed dinners by their school dinner ladies, you know, or like you said a minute ago, you know, people who perhaps didn't have abundance of food in their upbringings, and so therefore they snaffle the food now, because, you know, if they didn't eat it when they were little kids, it was gone from their plates, or parents using food as reward and punishment, you know, so go, you know, if you don't do that, you'll go to bed without supper kind of treatment, or you know, if you're naughty, you can't have this, that and the other food. Versus again, some people who'd been brought up where food was very, very abundant, but yet there was the dialogue around food was actually not perhaps conducive to a healthier relationship with food, and it's really just, you know, we're looking forward to getting in and unpicking all of this. And again, this is what sort of the therapy in that can do as well, isn't it? You know, just sort of unpicking and pulling on the strings of all this information, and then seeing where it goes.
Absolutely. And actually, sometimes when you pull on that string, you get led somewhere you never thought you would like kind of have the answers to the question you're asking. So another example of a time where we kind of wanted to investigate a relationship with food, we uncovered a life that on the surface of it has nothing to do with food, but what it came down to was self-worth and feeling unworthy of nurturing their body, because their body was not something that they had a good relationship with. So I mean, it helped me kind of understand that taking food out of the equation, actually what we're exploring at the bottom of all of this is our own relationship with ourselves, relationships in general. So, and how that impacts our self-worth, and how much it impacts how we feel like we deserve nurture, love, and care. And food sometimes just happens to be the thing that shows up, is the thing that highlights the fact that we have low self-worth.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those where quite often, let's say, our relationship from food may well have started in our pasts, in some way, shape or form. But you're absolutely right, and this is why for me it's about life and weight loss, and especially our relationships with ourselves, relationships with anything, you know, whether it be, so I think last week I was talking about decision making, you know, and even down to, do you consider yourself to be a good decision maker or not a good decision maker? Because if you sort of, we tend to think about things in black and white, don't we? And so, you know, food ultimately, and weight loss, if you're working on weight loss, and or anything again in life, is just a series of decisions. And so again, if you are somebody, for whether that be from past life, current life, who has had a difficult relationship with making decisions, or time, you know, running out of time to make your healthier food, or to even cook food, so you're grabbing at food, and so again, it's how that all interconnects and goes together, isn't it?
Oh wow, yeah. I mean, that's such a good point, isn't it? About everything just being around this idea about how we have been twisted, tainted, and influenced to make certain kinds of decisions, and how that impacts all areas of our life, and our health, our well-being, the people we allow into our space. It's just also relational, isn't it? It goes back to this idea that everything is just so connected. And I think often the bottom line is this idea about worthiness and feeling like we deserve the nurture, we deserve that time to be caring towards ourselves, and food just often happens to be the thing that shows up, that can highlight that needs to be addressed.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one where we can't get away from food. We have to eat to survive. And so it is a daily reminder. And again, I was talking this week about, at least if you, this is not belittling people who struggle with other addictions, but at least with most addictions, you can at least attempt to go cold turkey as a possible option, for example, whereas you can't with food. It is, you've got no choice. You have to have a relationship with food, and like you say, it can be used as food can be used as pleasure, and it can be used as punishment, and it's again trying to figure out where you are on that spectrum. And gathering that awareness in whatever way that you can do. So yeah, definitely very connected.
One of the biggest benefits of past life regression is just having that self-awareness. And it is one of the biggest benefits. People always come away from regression session packages feeling like they just understand themselves that bit more, and they understand what influences those decisions as well. So when they go to make a decision, or they go and face something that they've been struggling with, it's just that mindfulness, that understanding, that awareness of, okay, I was originally going to maybe go for that decision, but now I know what maybe drives that decision. I might now choose to do something different,
Yeah. Again, completely agree. It's one of those where sometimes, say, you gather this awareness in our journeys, again, whatever it is that we're working on, and once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. And so it's a bit like that, talk about yellow car syndrome, isn't it? Where, like you say about yellow cars, and then all of a sudden you see them everywhere, even though they're quite rare. And it's that kind of thing that once you know something, next time, like you say, you go to do something, and you really you know that's a habit or something, you can again have that momentary pause to stop yourself, or the urge, or whatever it might be.
I mean, the thing about regression is that it has to be considered as quite deep shadow work, quite intensive self-awareness, self-reflection work. It's not something that can be delved into in a flippant kind of way, I suppose, because who knows what you uncover, if you're working on some of the old belief systems from this life currently, which is what you do with people, and ask them to trace back some of these ideas around their relationship with food. But if you think you maybe have lived like 100 lives before that, imagine doing that to every life. That's a lot of limiting beliefs. That's a lot of blocks that you might have just for one issue, just for one thing. So it has to be something that you are ready to kind of feel like, okay, I think I've explored this life enough. I'm still possibly having some difficulties that I can't quite work out why. Let's have a look at some of the lives that I may have had that have this issue with food, or with another issue that you may be dealing with. But yeah, it's something to not take too lightly, because you can uncover lives and situations and experiences and memories that are difficult, even traumatic. So it is something that is very gently guided through by me.
Yes, yeah, and that is the thing, isn't it? Is that there is that sort of that importance of gathering that awareness, but then, like you say, you've also need to make sure that you have got the tools and support to know what to do with that, because I think there's always that worry. So like say you must be working on a subconscious level of some sort as well, and like say in the belief coding we are as well, and so there's always that. It's not that, because our subconscious will only show us what it's ready to show us and what we can cope with, but in the same breath there is always that I think that, I don't know whether you get it with your clients, but do they ever worry about the fact that they're going to open Pandora's box and not be able to put her back in, for example? But this is why it's important to have that support, and like you say, not necessarily when I say don't dabble by yourself in a way, unless you know what you're doing, or
it's probably one of the biggest biggest pieces of advice that I give people is try not to dabble on your own with something like regression, because you know there are some guided meditations out there if people did want to give it a try. You know, there's no sort of big sort of rules against or for, and I'm sure there's debates around lots of things to do with that, but I would say just go cautious, you know, and it's best to find your person, a person that you feel like you can trust, you feel like safe and held by, somebody who you know you're going to be able to explore some of that with, because you know you're sharing some very personal experiences with somebody, so you have to trust them, you have to feel safe with them.
Yeah, and just being able to have somebody to help facilitate that is well, because you sometimes you can see the wood for the trees yourself, isn't it? And then other times sometimes you need somebody to just reframe something, or just feed something back to you almost, isn't it? So when we're working on weight loss, we talk about having accountability. So like I've got a support group that goes with a membership, but then you could also have accountability buddies. And sometimes if you then talking to somebody about something, even again just verbalizing it to somebody rather than trying to do something in your head, you get a different, almost a different perspective. And then if they say something back as a result of what you've told them, again you get another layer of awareness, isn't it? And so it's all, let's say, building on top of it.
Yeah, and that's your role as a kind of mentor, as a coach, as a therapist, as you know, that's the role that we play, that we can offer different perspectives and make people feel safe to talk and discuss and explore those different perspectives in a way that they know they won't be judged, that they feel like they can say things that they might not normally have said. And I think that's really important. I think it's important to offer those different thoughts and perspectives from somebody's memories, experiences, because I think we we all kind of struggle with this idea that we might need to be accountable for something ourselves. So the interesting thing about regression therapy is that people go into it assuming they're going to be, if they're going to experience something troubling, that they'll be the victim side of something, and people never assume that they could be on the other side of it and be the person possibly acting unkindly, you know. But actually, if we go into a regression with the intention we want to uncover a reason behind some self-worth issues, it can often lead to memories of lives where we acted unkindly, because this idea of shame and regret, this idea that we may not be worthy of nurture and kindness because we acted so unkindly in that particular life, that shame energy is actually really powerful and can really influence how we nurture ourselves in this life. So it is about having an open mind and knowing that you're safe with me and that I would never judge you on experiencing a life where you think, gosh, I did not expect to be somebody who would treat other people that way.
Yeah. And again, I think you're touching again on a very key point, that it's our self-judgment. It's always the judgment of ourselves that creates the most suffering. And this is why, again, for me, it's weight loss with love all the way. You know, it's about, like say, developing that self-worth and that self-belief on the journey, because often that's been knocked along the way in life, and especially sometimes if you're somebody who has occupied a larger body and perhaps didn't want to, then sometimes we've had those knocks, isn't it? And so I'm sure as well you then help facilitate people to like say, not only find that worth, but also their, you know, to sort of love themselves in the process, really, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because we're our own harshest critics a lot of the time, aren't we? And we're so judgmental towards ourselves, and people would never often admit that they're a judgmental person, yet if you judge yourself harshly, then you are, you very easily harshly judge yourself, and you should include yourself in the population, and we can be really hard on ourselves. And some of that can come from shame energy that's come from lives, because we've probably lived a lot of lives. You might not have, but quite possibly you have. We can't always expect to have had good experiences, or to have not had times where we've maybe acted not out of love. So the idea that shame energy's continued along the line, to a point where it's impacted our self-worth, then we have to practice self-kindness and understand forgiveness, and be able to heal and remove some of that shame energy. And that's what I do help facilitate. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it is, having seen a similar process, I think, through belief coding. Again, it is a really powerful process, and really powerful work. Gets right into the nub of the issue, really. And the shame as well, the emotion of shame is one of the hardest felt, isn't it? And like you say, it would make sense that does follow through more strongly. We've all got that negativity bias in our brains, isn't it, that we will always see the negative before the positives. And I guess it's because it's such a strong feeling, such a strong emotion, that you can't deny it when it happens, isn't it?
Yeah, and we enter this space of complete vulnerability when we explore that emotion. Because when we explore the emotion of shame, we then have to delve into some memories that we're ashamed of. And that's a really scary thing to do, because we have to admit to ourselves, and possibly somebody else, if you're doing therapy, some of these memories, not just from this life, but from the other ones that we may have experienced in the regression. It's a really vulnerable space, but if you feel courageous enough to explore some of that, the results are outstanding. If we think all of this is coming down to this idea of having low self-worth, what more powerful an action can you do than heal and cleanse yourself of some shame energy? So then you think, yeah, I'm damn well worth looking after myself, and I need to nurture my body because I deserve it, because the barriers and blocks to getting to that mindset is often shame and fear of being vulnerable to explore that emotion. So it's definitely a safe space that I provide for people to do that, and to explore that with me.
Yeah, and that's lovely. So how did you actually get into it? How did you come into setting up your business and doing what you do?
Oh gosh, well, that's a long story.
Yeah. Well, we were saying we were trying to we both got to go by 15 minutes, isn't it?
I'll keep it condensed. Okay, well, my background's in education. I did a lot of community education. I taught young people, specifically teenage girls in the Northeast. And I always, from a young age, practiced witchcraft as a teenager myself. That was just something that was really important to me. And from early adulthood, I started reading tarot for people. I ran a spiritual healing business kind of on the side of my full-time job for a long time. I did a lot of events. I did a lot of teaching and coaching for tarot readers. And then I done my Reiki and started teaching Reiki. Past life regression kind of started coming in hand to hand with Reiki. And this was when Blackmoon Cove started, because it was based on wanting to share this beautiful world of Reiki and past life regression to other people, because I was experiencing it. Really because, so I went through a weight loss journey as well, Faye. So I lost 6 stone. And I kind of went through different stages with it. The middle stage was a place where I struggled quite a lot to stick to things. And again, lots of limiting beliefs cropped up. Started doing Reiki, explored this idea of past life regression, had my mind blown and realized there was a lot of healing work that needed to happen hand in hand with my weight loss at the same time. So I ran alongside past life regression therapy, Reiki training, and my weight loss all at the same time. And it was just a beautiful way to end that weight loss journey for me. And what was born from that was the business. And now I deliver it to other people, and it's amazing.
I love that, because again, it's sort of similar story to mine, isn't it? You know, I've come into doing this because of my weight loss journey. So, and I knew that you'd had a weight loss journey because you told me in a brief chat that we had, but yeah, I didn't realize it was so interconnected with your business, which is beautiful. So I am conscious of time. We do need to wrap up, even though I could literally talk all night. So where can people find you? Make sure that you drop your links under any of the videos that you can find. Like I say, I'm not sure if this has actually shown up in the Wellness for Women group. I'll get the video in there, and then I'll make sure that your links are over there. But if you've got any special events or anything coming up, let us know about it. But is there anything else that you wanted to let anybody else know before we shoot?
Only that if that's something that you're interested in, then please do just get in contact with me. We have an Ancestral Healing event that's actually coming up next month, at the end of May. It's a 10-day healing journey where we look at ancestral trauma and work on healing some of those wounds that have come forward in our life today. So I shall share the link for that, as well as some of the other links that I have.
No worries. Well, you can always drop those over to me as well, and I'll just make sure that they're under the videos. So, okay. Well, in which case then, I think it's just time for us to say goodbye, and I'll let everybody get on with their evenings. It's been a pleasure, Luna. Thank you again for joining on. It's been very interesting, and I know that we'll be in touch. So I'll see you on the other side, and we'll say goodbye to everybody for now. Bye for now, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening. And don't forget, if you want to boost your life and weight loss the AAA way, check out the relevant links for today's show in the description. Speak soon.